Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to do another comparison review. This time, we're going to compare the Caol Ila 30-year-old from 1983 and the Caol Ila 35-year-old from 1982. Dustin, 55.1% ABV compared to 58.1% ABV. For 3 ABV difference for the older one, which is 5 years older. We are going to put these bottles to our left and our right to try to keep it simple. Basically, the ones on our right or your left will be the 35, since I am older, since I am your senior.
That you are.
By about 8 years. And then the 30-year-old will be on our left or your right. So what we'll do is always, we'll start off with the younger whiskey, Dustin, and we'll work our way to the older one. We'll let you guys know what we think as far as the nose and the taste and the finish, which one we think is better with and without water. And as always with the Versus series, we're just trying to say, if someone was picking up the tab at the bar, Dustin, doesn't matter to you what the money costs, don't just go with the more expensive one, go with the best one.
Yep.
So we have 2 of the best Caol Ilas I've ever had.
Yeah, 2 of the best whiskeys we've ever had.
Yeah, they're right up there. I've done individual reviews on that. That was Whiskey Review 222. This one was 227 or 28, something like that. I'm not quite sure. This one was released on Christmas Day 2020. So we're going to compare the 2 of these, Dustin, and figure out which one of the best of these 2 epic Caol Ilas. 2014 Diageo Special Release, 2018 higher ABV, 5 years older, both excellent whiskeys. Let's get into it.
You know what's already amazing, Mike? I can smell it right now. Like literally, they're coming off the glass. That aromatic.
I tell you what, they're the same color. That's for sure. But let's pick out the 30, which will be on everyone's right, on our left. Let's get into it. Lemon, fresh peat, fresh unburnt peat, and lemon loaf.
Yeah, definitely a level of cleanliness. Like I think of being in a clean room up to a degree here.
Like you should, like scientists should be drinking this type of whiskey.
Yeah, or maybe like you just cleaned your deck or something, and you're out there sitting on the deck, because there's a little bit of earthy element there, but it's
just clean your boat, knock the barnacles off the bottom of it.
Yeah, there you go.
Ever owned a boat?
My dad had a boat, so we used to spend quite a bit of time on the lake.
Yeah, I never owned a boat myself. I had a buddy who owned a boat. He was one that got me hip to the phrase, best 2 days for a boat owner is the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
Yeah.
And I was in plenty of those in-between days, and he always kind of roped me into cleaning that thing with him. So, yeah, you're right. It didn't smell this clean, but I get it. Clean, seashore.
Yeah.
Boat first out for this first maiden voyage into the water.
Well, you know what boat stands for, right?
Give it to me.
About another $1,000.
Probably. Those were money traps.
Oh my God.
It's like a hot tub.
I mean, just beautiful, clean lemon zest. Again, that's why I think clean, because again, lemon zest, I think of cleaners.
Mr. Clean, they use that kind of smell.
Yeah.
You're right.
And then, it's got a really nice, it's got an earthy note to it at the end, and it's very inviting. I meit's
warm, vibrant, bright, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had like a mud bath or like a mud facial, but this is like designer mud. That's that dirt that people actually want to be around. Yeah, it's just beautiful. I mean, it's also bringing up some coastal notes.
Sure.
Definitely.
A little bit of maritime.
Yeah, which sometimes I don't get on Caol Ilas.
No, but again, with cask strength 55.1 on this 30-year-old, it's driving it home. I mean, all of those flavors.
Yeah, it's really nice.
But again, perfect balance, peated whiskey, lovely, excellent smell. We gave this individually a 93 out of 100. You can look back at our previous reviews if you want to get into full detail of what that is. We're trying to go back and forth and tell you guys what the better version is. Now, not as aggressive, even though it's 3% higher as far as ABV. It's a little more subdued.
Well, it's not as sweet and it's not as vibrant, but at the end there, though, it's darker. There's smoke. There's oak.
It's denser, though. It's a denser smell.
You're
right. It doesn't jump out like the 30 does, but the 30 jumps out specifically with 2 or 3 flavors. So another moment or 2 of your time to dig into, but once you do, it's darker and it's denser.
I mean, I'm getting more of like a Dunnage warehouse. Oak is definitely more prevalent. Smoke is more prevalent. I'm not getting earth as much as I'm getting smoke here.
No, but dense smoke.
I'm still getting some of the fruits, but I'm getting more vanilla, not as much lemon, zest, that stuff. And it's much, there's less nose here, just in general.
Yeah, no, it's not as punchy. It comes off as less of an ABV, even though it's more, but maybe that's from the extra 5 years of maturation.
Yeah.
Because again, once you get above 30 years, that's really some aging.
Yeah.
done in a cask.
I've had very little whiskey over the 30-year mark. I've had a few, of course, but not a lot.
No, and this one's halfway to 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it just feels, it almost has a honey note to me, which I really didn't notice in the initial review of the 35. There's almost like a honey note to it. It's a very dense honey. It reminds me of the Balvenie Ton 1401s. Now, this is obviously peated, and it's obviously not a like honey malt like Balvenie is, but there is a very dark, old forest honey note to this.
And it's dense.
Like
It's dense, it's dark, yeah. It's not the stuff you're picking up at the store usually. I mean, this is the specialty stuff.
It's like a beehive that was lost in an old forest.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a hint of heather on here as well.
Shockingly honeyed comparatively. That's why I like to do these comparison reviews, because it's easier to pick out nuances in the whiskey once you have two different versions that are kind of similar.
You know what's funny is after really digging into that one, Mike, I can barely smell the 30.
You're right. It didn't seem as dense initially, did it?
Well, and it's because of the 30s are so vibrant, it's light, whereas this is so much darker and denser that even though like there's not that big puff of sweetness, which is what initially on the 30 you're like, ooh, that's sweet.
I will say this, the 30, the lemon zest is still noticeable though. But you're right, kind of going back and forth. I mean, obviously we started with the 30, so that was a little bit more prevalent. You're right, the 35 doesn't initially seem, after smelling the 31st, like it is aggressive as the smell, but it is. Everything's at a 90, where the lemons may be at 110, but everything else is like about 70.
Well, and again, I think, one sweeter, which again, you pick that up initially, faster, vibrant whiskeys, you tend to jump out at you.
Sure.
But then when you start digging in here, you realize that really, there's not a lot initially up there when you start picking up the sweetness, but it's when you get to the oak and the density, and then, believe it or not, I think that honey is behind the oak.
Could be.
And so you don't notice it as, it's a slower whiskey to nose. You don't pick it up as fast.
It's almost honeycombs, like honeycomb cereal, like density. It's like honeycomb cereal that, you know, because it has a little bit of that cereal note with it too, that it has, it's kind of waterlogged milk.
It's honey where they actually have the actual real bee combs still in it. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's the stuff that you get like straight from the farm.
Yeah, that's why I said it's old honey.
Yeah.
But it's also, there's that sweetness to it that reminds me of like a cereal honey from like, you know, honeycombs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really just getting lemon, and I still do get a little bit of the clean soil here, whereas the 35 is smoke.
It's far darker and denser.
Dare I say the 35 is a little peatier?
I would say smokier.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. At least the volume of the smoke feels more dense, more compact.
Yeah.
It almost feels like the difference between a light, bright forest and a heavily dense forest. I don't know if you're a
Yeah.
hiker at all, or let's put it in a different way. I mean, if you ever saw like Disney's version of like, you know, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or something like that, that's a very happy forest. This one is like Lord of the Rings. This is Mirkwood. Like
Yeah, I have Sauron's looking at you.
Yeah, it's dense. The air's thick. You know what I'm saying? And again, it's a little bit higher in ABV and it's 5 years older. Now, 5 years is a big gap in aging of whiskey. But when you're talking 30 compared to 35,
it starts becoming a little less.
Yes.
Mathematically, as a percentage, it is, but you know.
But again, I was so impressed initially with the 30 because I had this first. This 35, I was like, how much better could it really be?
Yeah.
It's a nice step up as far as that.
On the nose, we're there. All right, I got to get into the tasting on this thing, Mike.
Okay, let's go with the 31st.
31st, yep.
Lower ABV.
Darn it, we want to drink this.
These are heavy hitters, man.
Yeah.
These are 93, 94 out of 100 whiskeys.
So I'm getting like undercooked breads and cookies and a lot of doughy character here.
Sure, but as soon as you swallow, lemon, zest, smoke, unburnt peat, lemon loaf.
I mean, it's clean, unburnt earth. I mean, really. I mean,
Such an approachable whiskey, even at a high ABV.
Yeah.
If you like smoky whiskeys, you'll easily be able. If you even had Lagavulin 16, which is lower ABV, Ardbeg 10, this is a very palatable whiskey. This 30-year-old.
Yeah. You know, honestly, if Johnny Walker put out a cast strength version of the black, and that was something you found approachable, this is that approachable.
Oh yeah, very approachable. I mean, very easy drinking whiskey for being a high ABV.
Yeah,
and super smoky, punchy.
Yeah, we're not saying it's lost the peat at all here. It hasn't. In fact, it's still.
It's the style of peat that does it. The peat's still there, but the style of peat is very easily palatable compared to other Islay whiskeys. I mean, this isn't something that you're like, well, you like Lafroig or you don't. Anybody who likes Lafroig, Lagavulin, Ardbeg, they should segue easily into this type of smoke and appreciate it as a fresher, lighter, more unburnt, less medicinal smoke.
But if you're somebody who maybe likes, say, a Balvenie Peat Week more than they like the Islas, this is going to also be right there in your wheelhouse.
Absolutely.
Because this is going to be right there in between. I got to say, it's earthy. I'm getting, dare I say, it drinks way younger than 30 years.
Way younger.
Like, and not just on the peat being bold, but also
just in general, all the flavors.
the oak isn't really there like I would expect on a 30-year.
You're probably using some cast that been used a time or two,
Yeah.
I would guess, on it. And not only that, the ABV doesn't seem 55.1. It seems a lot lighter than that.
I mean, it's easy to drink. I want to say this in a not in a negative way, but it gives me some characteristics of younger, kind of refilled, reused casks, but it does it very well.
Oh, yeah. It's the best version of a second or third fill cask.
Yeah. So it's doing really, really well, but
I tell you what, I'm going to give it this 35.
yeah, I mean, you got to, right? And I mean, at the 35, I mean, really, the question is really going to be, does the darkness of the 35 overpower the lightness of the 30? And I think for me, that's what I'm going in looking for. What do you get, Mike?
It does. For me, it does. It's obviously denser than the 35. More honeyed, more sweet, more balanced, almost a perfect peated whiskey. And on the palate, it's almost a difference on the palate. Now I've had them back to back. The nose, there were things I could say, maybe the 30 was better. On the palate, the 35 is so much better. It's like comparing a Balvenie Ton 1409 to a Balvenie Ton, a Ton 1509
to a
compared to a 1401. It is an obvious palate difference.
Yeah, this is...
Woo!
So, the 30 drinks more like a 21-year-old whiskey to me.
This drinks like a 40-year-old, old, oaky whiskey that you drank in an old forest sitting next to an old beehive.
Yeah.
Where the queen bee was this big.
Yeah.
Because you only had like 5 worker bees because they had been doing business for 60 years in that tree.
I mean, this thing is just... It is a heavy hitter. It brings in that oak character that you want in these 30-plus-year-old whiskeys. And it's rich, it's dark. And then again, it's smokier, it's richer. I mean, it comes off more peated, more flavorful. It's just, and Mike, that honey, and then there's still the fruitiness. Like there's still, after the honey, it comes in with this really rich lemon or something.
But all in balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, lemon, honey, dark, like a dark fig or a dark fruit in there too. It is so dense, so rich. Yeah, it comes off 10 years older than the 30.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, for only paying $60 extra for this 35 compared to the 30 when I did, I mean, and at this price range, you're talking less than 10%.
Yeah.
This was the obvious buy. This is obviously a better whiskey than this 30-year-old. And this 30-year-old's a stunner.
Yeah, I guess we spoiled the ending here because, it's not even...
We jumped right to the end.
Yeah. I mean, side by side...
It's obvious.
I'm almost like...
Shocked.
I'm not even appreciating this whiskey as a ultra high-end, super premium whiskey.
And it is.
Because it absolutely is. I mean,
Absolutely.
When we reviewed it by itself, I mean, we were about 93. I mean, that's an insanely high score.
Yeah, top 10 I've ever had.
Yeah. But I'm now questioning if this should have been a 30 or 95. I mean, that's how big a gap.
I mean, I said a 94, which when I originally reviewed this, and this whiskey, and you can look back at our previous whiskey reviews to check that out. Jeez. And this whiskey, that's now when I, just rated the Lagavulin 1991 24-year-old from Facio 2015 to 94. This is right on par with that. And I'm thinking maybe I got to review with that in Lagavulin 25 just to see like what really is the best peated whiskey I have, because this, dare I say, I've underappreciated my whiskey collection.
I got to say, Mike, I mean, I've only had this, I think, we've had it maybe twice before. And
I've had it 5 times.
I've had it twice. Mike's had the other.
I'm right down here. And I have a backup bottle, so it's not like I'm worried about not ever having this whiskey, because I always want to have it. But it's not whiskey I go to a ton, and every time I go back to it, I'm like, man, I've underrated this whiskey. But this time next year, it might be a 96.
You know, what's crazy about Isla for me is Isla's drink younger to me than anywhere else in Scotland. Mm. Like, so for example, we did the 37-year Linkwood, right?
Sure.
That drink's very old.
Yes.
We've done a lot of 25-year-old whiskeys,
sure.
Tons of them. And, again, I generally find that, the Caol Ila 30 drinks 20 to 25 years old. Mm-hmm. And truth be told, the Lagavulin you just talked about, the 25 and the 24-year-olds, they don't drink like they're super old. They just drink exceptionally well because
Sure.
but you don't get those rich leathers and,
Buddy, I
library.
understand this is a 35-year-old whiskey. This drinks
Yeah.
35 years.
This is the first, older, 25, or let's call it 23 plus Isla I've had that drinks like it's got that rich leather, and it's, you're going into an old library with old leather-bound books.
It
It's got all that.
reminds me of Balvenie 1401s. Just old, dense, old whiskey. Maybe not with the 1401s, maybe not all the whiskey, but there is a certain portion of that whiskey that is pushing 4 decades old.
Yeah.
And just, there's a feel as far as the texture and as far as what you pick up on the nose, you can't get in young whiskeys. I don't care what you do to them.
No, absolutely. And I think 1401 is a great comp for this, as I think
Yeah.
Liquid 37 is the other one I'm going back to.
Yeah, just the Stunner's whiskeys you have to have nearly 4 decades to get to. Now, I know we kind of jumped ahead to this, so we'll probably just, kind of enjoy these whiskeys at our leisure here at the very end. But, Dustin, I think you're in agreement with me that 35 is a clear winner here in this comparison.
It is so clear.
First of all, if you have both these whiskeys at a bar, you're probably in Scotland. If you have somebody that's willing to pick up the tab, it's probably not me. So, in any of those scenarios, if you have the unlikely scenario of picking between these two and you just want to go with the better whiskey and you're not paying, it doesn't matter what they cost, this 35, they're both stunners. Let's be honest.
And I really want to go to the bar that has both of these whiskeys on.
I'm sure in Scotland, there's all kinds of bars that have
Maybe
both.
Chicago.
I don't even think there. I don't think even in the States we're getting something like this. But again, if you're in this thing, go with the 35. If you think 5 extra years, can it be that much better? It is. It is that much better. It's 3% higher in ABV, which doesn't even make sense.
Now,
but
question
this is
though,
a better
just for
whiskey.
fun, Mike. Just for fun, we'll do it. So one of the comments that somebody made was they were in a different country than we were, and they were looking at different pricing. And they were probably seeing maybe say $650 for the 30 and $1,000 for the 35.
35 is worth that extra jump.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, if it was twice as expensive, it was between $750 and $1,500. I'd probably have 2 of those than one of these. But even then, I'm not sure. Because this is magic. If you want to say, what's the best Caol Ila you've ever had?
Oh yeah, I'd pay double though. I would pay double.
Yeah, it is a substantial step up. It's worth something. I don't know if double, but it's worth something.
Triple's probably where I stop.
Yes. Those are
Triple, I'm like, I'm out. Okay, I'll take 3. But
So if you're one of 3,200 people that were able to get your hands on this bottle, or one of 6,000 people get your hands on that bottle, let me know. I want to once again thank 2 of my Canadian friends for recommending the 30. Sean Casey, Montreal Whiskey Assassin, and then Sean, the greatest realtor in BC. Thank you for recommending the 30-year-old. I would have never bought the 35 if I wasn't impressed with the 30-year-old. So in a way, you guys are responsible. That and me and shipping and UPS.
thanks, guys.
Yeah, everyone was involved. Everybody. Everyone wants to take credit. It's fine. Anyway, that's where we're at as far as a comparison review on this particular one. If you guys have been lucky enough to try either one of these, I'd like to know what you guys think, especially if you've had this 35. Do you guys think as highly as we do? Again, initially we rated that on individual whiskey review 222, 93. We rated this a 94. Had them compared side to side. They're probably more than a point difference.
Yeah.
More
But
like
again,
92 and 95.
Every point after 90 though is a hell of a task to earn that point.
It's a
It's an exponential. It's logarithmic. I mean, it's going way up there.
It's like the speed of light, it's more effort to get one more tick higher, and I feel like I really want to make sure that it's worth it. But again, I thought that was worth a 93. This is absolutely worth a 94. Excellent whiskey. Until next time, we want to hear what your thoughts are in the comments section, and we'll wish the folks, Dustin.
Happy drinking.
See you then.